Our Stoneware texture glaze line offers two different unique textured surfaces. They are not considered dinnerware safe due to the surface characteristics. Our mud crack glazes are glazes that will crack and pull apart in the firing, which reveals the underlying clay body. The heavier application results in more of the mud crack effect. So you can see on these tiles here, one coat creates a smoother, less dimensional result, whereas 3 coats, the product is going to pull apart in larger and more raised patterns. Our magma glazes create a dimensional and cratered surface. The texture of these glazes will increase as the glaze thickness increases. As you can see here, 1 coat of glaze produces a sand-like texture, where 3 coats of glaze produces a more raised and cratered surface. Subsequent coats of glaze will increase the cratering effect. Our light magma glaze is a little bit less dimensional than our dark magma glaze, so we recommend applying it a little bit heavier. You can see on these tiles here, there's 3 coats of each glaze, and the dark magma has a little bit more depth than the light magma does. So if you'd like to achieve a similar effect between the two, we just recommend adding a little bit more of the white magma than the dark magma. If you'd like to add some color to our light magma glaze, we recommend sandwiching it with our Stoneware gloss glazes. So this bottle that we have here, we did 2 coats of light magma, 1 coat of our red gloss, and 2 more coats of light magma. We found that this layering technique adds pigment to the fired results of the magma glaze while not affecting the texture. We recommend leaving ample space surrounding pieces with dark magma when you're loading them in the kiln. This product can fume on the surrounding pieces in the kiln. When you first open a jar of our mud crack glazes, they will usually be pretty gelatinous, so we recommend to shake them vigorously before using. Here we have a new jar of our black mud crack glaze. You can see here it's pretty globby and has a little bit of water separation. That's absolutely no problem. We'll just have to vigorously shake it before we use it. So after our first shake, it's still pretty thick. So what I'm gonna do is add a little bit of water to help thin the glaze and make it easier to brush on. And remember to use distilled water when you're adding it to your glaze. If the glaze remains too thick, it is likely that the mud crack glaze will peel off of your bisque as it dries. So we want to make it nice and thin so that you can layer the glaze on gradually and not end up with too thick of coats. All right, so here we have our hydrated and mixed black mud crack glaze. You can see it's much smoother here in the jar. It adheres to my brush. It's not clumpy. So we're gonna go ahead and show how to apply this glaze. As you apply the glaze, it is going to dry and crack similar to how it would in the firing. So pay close attention to the way that this glaze is drying on your piece. So our first coat, it dries pretty much immediately, and you have small cracks that are forming as it's drying. So now that it's totally dry here, I'll go ahead and add my second coat of glaze. pay attention to the way the glaze is drying. If it is pulling back while it dries, it will continue to pull back and could possibly pop off during the glaze firing. So if you applied only one coat and the glaze starts to roll back, do not apply more coats. So we have here, it's starting to crack, but it's not pulling back or anything. So I'm gonna go ahead and apply a third coat to this half here so we can see the difference between 2 and 3 coats, dried and fired. The heavier application of our mud crack glazes will result in more dimension and more space in between the mud cracks. We recommend applying our mud crack glazes directly to a clay body. They can be used on top of our gloss glazes with interesting results. They work well on a variety of clay bodies, and results vary a bit between clay bodies. Here is mud crack on a dark brown clay body. You can see that there's more space between the mud cracks and the glaze bulbs up a little bit more than when it's on a white clay body. And this piece here is both our white and black mud crack on a dark brown clay body. The blue mud crack that you see here is actually a result of the 2 mud cracks overlapping.